Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode here in NHL 22. So last episode we had a pretty busy episode. We made more roster changes. We decided to trade away John Farinacci to the Los Angeles Kings and also Sadikov, and we brought in Quinton Byfield to help out our second line. We also made a trade involving one of our prospects that was medium elite potential, but didn't look like he was going to reach that potential, to be honest. And we brought in Sharon Govich, so our team looks a lot different than it did last year. But so far, it's off to a pretty good start. Our top line has been producing with the addition of Michkov. Sharon Govich has been pretty solid up there as well. And then the second line seems to be actually producing pretty decently. Like Shelley's off to a decent start this year. He's on pace for like 30-something goals, so he might be returning to form, which would be nice. Our bottom six has been a little bit quiet. That's pretty much the only problem really with our team so far. We've been a really good defensive team because as you can see, both of our goalies have like a 930 save percentage pretty much. And yeah, they've just been really good. So hopefully that continues for the rest of the season. But we are going to probably be making some changes in this episode just to like the bottom six in terms of how it's set up. And then I'm probably also going to be making maybe a trade because I would really like to get Riley in the lineup. We did sign this guy. He's an offensive defenseman with 99 passing, so I'd like to get him onto our top six pairing, which means we're probably going to have to trade away Axel Anderson, who we literally just signed in last episode. So more than likely, we're going to try and find a trade for Axel Anderson, and then we could throw Riley into our top six. And hopefully in the Axel Anderson trade, we could find ourselves a depth defenseman. So it's more just to get Riley in because I think he could help out like this power play unit, especially the second unit. And then he could also probably bring some more offense to this bottom six because considering he's on like the top six pairing, I think he could help that out a little bit. So yeah, that's probably what we're going to be doing in this episode. We're going to sim up to the deadline, but the deadline will be in next episode. So that way we could address anything we really need to for the rest of the season. But anyways, before we get into that, we do have a few comments to go over from HawksFan88, and he says, team is doing pretty well overall. I would maybe try and adjust your bottom six lines to get them scoring a bit more, though, which is what I was pretty much just saying. Also, I told him how I was skeptical about Riley being scratched, so he said he would definitely give him a chance and consider trading Anderson. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. That's probably why I just brought that up, is because I read his comment literally just a little bit before this. So we are going to try and get our bottom six to start scoring a little bit more. I don't really know what we could do. Like, I think, who is playing on the fourth line? Wait, 905. I think we could probably move Redmond down, which I don't really like because Redmond's a little bit more offensively minded. But let's move Redmond down, Gallagher up to that third line. And maybe we want to take Anisimov out of the lineup, give Schulz an opportunity. We'll do that for now, I think. Yeah, we'll do that for now. Just take Anisimov out. We could always try and throw Sepulveov into the lineup. And like I said, I am going to be trading away Axel Anderson. And we will play Riley on that top six, which means we got to trade away Axel Anderson because he's already losing morale playing on that top six pairing, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, he's already losing a little bit more morale, so might as well flip him away and get ourselves a good depth defenseman and maybe even like a pick or a prospect in that trade because I feel like Axel Anderson should have a decent amount of trade value. So let's make that trade before we start simulating. It seems weird to make a trade considering we've been playing so good defensively, but it kind of makes sense for us to get Riley in because Riley's kind of like gonna help us out, I think, in terms of the power play unit, especially like 99 passing. And if you put him like on like a power play with like Michkov or something like that, then he should pick up a lot of assists, I'm assuming. So let's try and find ourselves a depth defenseman that's like a 78 or something like that. It's relatively cheap. We don't need depth forwards or anything else, just a depth defenseman. We don't need somebody that actually will jump into our lineup. So there's guys like Zach Whitecloud. Not too bad defensively, but we don't know if he fits our system. Geisberger might, or not Geisberger, Geyser. I don't know why I said Geisberger. What else we got here? Anything else? Or are those two my only options? It's kind of annoying because we tried to sign some other players in last episode, and then the AIs end up signing them, and then put them on the block, which is really annoying. Gustav Forsling, but $5 million, no thank you. That's a bit expensive for a depth defenseman to be making. What else we got here? Couple good defenders. We're trying to find somebody that's like a 78. Essel Lindell? Esa Lindell. I think Esa Lindell's the type of player to definitely bring in because Esa Lindell, looks like he's really good defensively. He probably fits our top pairing and penalty kill lines, which would be perfect for a depth defenseman. So let's make a trade for Esa Lindell and see if they actually want Axel Anderson, which I would be fine with getting rid of. Looks like, yep, they definitely do want him. So that's perfect. So we could get Esa Lindell and we could probably get in something else. Let's just take a look. They do have some younger guys that could probably help out our bottom six in terms of scoring, but I really don't know if I want to start making trades for that bottom six in specific. Because I'd have to put somebody on waivers. But there is like Darren Walker, but he's another sniper, which we have a lot of snipers already. So I don't think we got to add anything in terms of forward. So let's add a draft pick to this deal. Let's take, can I take a third round pick from New Jersey in this? I might be able to. Lindell in a third for Axel Anderson. That's accepted. So that was actually a pretty good deal, I think. Yeah, it sucks to trade away an actual good defenseman, but we do bring in a depth defender, which he should already be in the NHL. A lot of guys are losing morale from that, which is not great, and apparently he was a quality player, which is a little bit weird, but we do pick ourselves up a solid depth defenseman, I think. And yeah, hopefully he should work out pretty good with our roster. Yeah, he works really good with the first pairing especially, and the bottom six pairings are not as good, but still he's a depth defenseman. And we also pick up ourselves a third round pick to potentially help us out in terms of the draft this season. So now that that is out of the way, let's continue to assimilate, and hopefully we continue to play good defensively with Riley on that top six pairing. And he's on that second power play unit by default because he's replacing Anderson. So that should be fine as well. So let's go to January the 1st, and yeah, we'll sim up to a day before the deadline, and hopefully this team continues to win some games and play good defensive hockey. That loss was a good defensive game, but it was a loss still, which I don't really like. But yeah, as long as this team can make the playoffs, we could definitely win ourselves a Stanley Cup if we play good defensively like this. Osgood's been injured. That's not really that great because we don't have a lot of defensemen in the AHL. Shishkinov has been injured in the NHL. That's actually a pretty big blow. But I'll just go replace players because we do have some solid depth, and that'll give a chance to guys like Sopolyov or whoever the guy we just scratched was, Anisimov. There's too much like Russian names to kind of remember who's who. But let's go back and put ourselves in our defenseman that got scratched, which was Osgood. There we go. But yeah, you can see we have too much forwards down there. We need to start drafting more defensemen. Guys like Kagorodov are getting close to being NHL ready, which is really good because we need as much offense as we can in this team because they kind of have struggled at some points. But we do have a lot of snipers still, so I'm kind of skeptical about having Shelley sign for as long as he is, but it is what it is. There's an 8-2 win over Detroit, and Shishkinov is returned. How did Anisimov do in the lineup? 2 goals in 23 games is not really that great. That means he didn't really do much when he was put in as that depth forward, but it is what it is. Looks like Gallagher is getting some growth since being put on that third line, which is good. But it does suck putting Redmond down to the fourth line. Let's see. Penner was never injured. Okay, good. But looks like we're getting good growth in the AHL right now, unless it's statistical based. But we're 18, 11, and 4. That's pretty solid. We are 40 points. We are only 6 points back of the Blackhawks for top in our division, so that's not too bad. And Michkov is still going off, 37 points in 33 games. Only 22 goals, so a little bit of a slower pace than probably when he was with Dallas. But it is what it is. He's picking up a lot more assists than I was expecting, but I think he should still be able to hit like 40 goals with this team at least. But hopefully we could start getting him to get closer to like a 50, 60 goal season like he was with Dallas, because Dallas never made the playoffs with him, which is kind of interesting. So let's go to February the 1st and see how we do for another month. Also, I am recording this like a couple hours after you guys might have seen the last episode, so I apologize if I didn't get to any of your comments. I just try and get these recorded way ahead of time. Tukinen was never injured, right? No, he was not. Okay, good. Riley hasn't been doing much offensively so far, so what do we want to do in terms of that? He's only got 3 points. But you think with that offensive stats he'd be good, but he's not really a great fit for our defensive core, which is unfortunate. See, I would put him into our top pairings. I could always do that, but I don't want to move Dobson all the way down. Doesn't really make sense. We could try and put Riley on the power play and then give Shelley some second line time. Or is Shelly doing really good? Shelly's actually doing really good, so never mind on that front. Don't really want to do that. I think I'll just keep the team the way it is right now. I don't know why Sharon Govich is on the second unit, but I won't question what the AI is deciding because we're winning games, and that's all that really matters. As long as we're simulating good, I'm happy with how the lines are set up. As long as people aren't losing morale because of ice time and all that. But yeah, we're still having a little bit of an inconsistent season, but maybe that's a good thing because maybe if you win too many games in a row, then you're not going to be a cup contender, that type of thing. So we want to kind of stay maybe around what we're doing right now. So we're 27, 16, and 6, which is really solid. We are third place still in our division, only behind the Blackhawks and the Avs by 3 and 5 points, which is not too bad. And in terms of teams that are outside of the playoffs, the Oilers are outside with 54 points. So we're only 6 points up on them, but we do have the same amount of games played as them. That's interesting. And Michkov, I guess, went really off that month. He has 38 goals now in 49 games. So yeah, Michkov is definitely maybe on pace to have a 50-goal season this year. Really love this player. Glad I brought him in. Definitely worth what we gave him in terms of contract and all that. It's just all about having a good supporting cast around him, I think, to make this team competitive and whatnot. So when's the trade deadline? It is on the 9th. So I guess we'll go to March the 1st, and then we'll simulate another week. But I will take a look at the player stats soon at the deadline as well, just to see who's been doing what. But it's still been a really inconsistent season. I really don't know what the problem is. As Sharon Govich has been injured, that's kind of a big loss. Let's just go replace player. But yeah, that's a big loss for that top line. Hopefully that top line can still do good, as Joe Pavelski got fired. Damn, that's kind of funny. Penner's been injured in the minors. Let's just go replace player. And there's a couple more wins. So 33, 21, and 6, and we still have a couple more games before the actual deadline. We are in a wild card spot now with 72 points, but the team that's outside of the wild card spots have 63 points. So it's just our division's really tight, I guess, for the most part. At least for these spots. Like, we're only 2 points back at the Avs and the Jets, but the Jets have 3 games in hand, which is kind of crazy. So, and Michkov has already got 46 goals, so he's all of a sudden just really turned it on. Like, he almost has 50 goals before the trade deadline, which is kind of nuts. I'm really glad I brought this guy in. He's an absolute cheat code, it seems like. So hopefully he could help us out when we actually get to the playoffs, if that is the case. Let's go a couple more games since we do have a couple more before the actual deadline, and then we'll take a look at player stats. I'm curious if Michkov will hit 50 goals before the trade deadline or not, but definitely he seems to be working out pretty well with this team so far. Let's put Sharon Govich back in. There we go. Glad to see him return a couple days before the actual deadline, and Gage Penner has returned for the AHL, so we'll take out Semenov. But yeah, Penner's getting a lot of growth actually too, and he's only got top 9 potential, so maybe this guy becomes somebody that actually makes it to the NHL, which would be really great. There's a 5-4 shootout win over the Jets. There's a 5-2 win over the Kings and a 4-1 loss to Buffalo. So we're still in the wild card spot, but we got a good record of 35, 22, and 6. And we have 76 points. The teams that are outside of the playoffs all have 65 and below. So we're in a good spot. We just need this team to continue simulating the way they are. And Michkov nearly hit 50 goals before the trade deadline, which is actually insane. 48 goals, 30 assists for 78 points. So he's definitely helping out our offense. And more than likely, guys like Agostino have a lot of points as well, I would assume. So let's take a look at our team stats and player stats so far for the season. Then we'll take a look also at the trading block and see what's out there in terms of stuff that we might want to trade for, that type of thing. So in terms of the entire league right now, surprisingly, where are we? We're not even top 10 in the league, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. In terms of goals for per game, we are one of the best offensive teams in the league, probably due to Michkov, though. To be honest, we are behind Columbus, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, Colorado, and Buffalo. Goals against per game, we are the third best defensive team behind Toronto, Pittsburgh, and the Rangers, so we have fallen off a little bit defensively. But we are still playing pretty solid there. Power play percentage is 21.9, so that is one of the best in the league. That's good to see. And then in terms of our penalty kill, it's actually been pretty solid as well, 84.4. So we've been pretty good in everything. We only have one short-handed goal this year, which is a little bit weird. 16, 12, and 3 on home ice, but 19, 10, and 3 on the road. Not too bad. Let's take a look at these player stats. Michkov is up to a 96 because of statistical growth. Damn. So Byfield's only got 47 points in 63 games, which is not really that much, but he is playing better than he was in Los Angeles. We definitely have to give him an extension this offseason, so hopefully he doesn't want too much. But yeah, hopefully he doesn't want too much. We could already give him a contract extension if we want to. Sharon Govich, 43 points in 56 games is pretty good. He did obviously miss a couple games due to injury. But yeah, seems to be fitting in pretty well here. Hopefully he doesn't want too much money in the offseason. Geeky's actually been really good as that third-line center. He is getting power play time, though, which makes sense. So 41 points in 63 games. And Sopolyov, 5 points in 7 games. Not too bad as a depth guy. But then again, he was thrown onto a line with Michkov and Agostino, so I could kind of see why he was doing pretty solid. Left wing wise, Agostino has got 71 points in 63 games, which is a career year. So definitely putting him next to a guy that could shoot the puck really well like Michkov has definitely worked out. Unfortunately, Shelley never became that type of guy, because or else that would have been nicer. But really good to see Agostino putting up this amount of points, because he's off to, yeah, definitely he's going to hit a career year this year at the pace he's on. And we still have him locked up for 3 more seasons, which is nice. And then we're going to have to give him a long-term deal again, because I like Agostino. He's probably one of the best players in the series. Shishkinov's been a little bit quiet for a second liner, 39 points in 61 games, but still relatively solid, I would say. LaRose, 29 points on the third line is not too bad either. McGill's 17 points, fourth line is pretty good. Since putting Emil Schulz in, he's been pretty good offensively to help out that bottom 6. I guess it was good to scratch Anisimov. And then right wing wise, Michkov is absolutely insane. 48 goals, 30 assists for 78 points. Already has over 300 shots as well. Absolutely nuts. What is his career best in goals? 61 goals. And last year he had 48 goals in 82 games. He's on pace to probably be around this range, I'm guessing. But yeah, he's off to a really good start. And if he keeps that like that, he'll go to the playoffs for the first time, which should be interesting, I would see. Shelley's kind of slowed down a little bit. 25 goals, 17 assists for 42 points is still not too bad. It's better than last year. But seems like he has to have a good supporting cast in order to put up a decent amount of points. So, yeah, hopefully he keeps on producing like this, because if he doesn't produce like this contract is going to still look pretty bad, because he's still signed for 4 more years after this. So at some point, if he's not producing, obviously he would be trade bait, which is not something I really like to say that, because I really like him, but he's been very inconsistent lately. Gallagher, 29 points is not too bad from a third liner as well. And Redmond, 18 points on the fourth line. So it seems like he's been doing better on that fourth line, but only 9 minutes on ice. And he is getting some development, which is good. He's a good fit for the second line too, apparently. So, I mean, if Shelley for some reason doesn't pan out, Redmond could take over that spot on the top 6 at some point. Defensively, Chychrun has really stepped it up all of a sudden. I don't think he had a lot of points to begin with, but now he's got 44 points in 63 games. Dobson's been pretty solid. Tuukkanen's been pretty solid. And yeah, Riley's has started to pick it up a little bit, so he's been a pretty good fit for that top 6. 12 points in 42 games is not really that great for an offensive defenseman, but a plus 13 is really solid to see. Sasaki's somehow a -1, but he's got 10 points this season. Guerrero's got 7 points and a plus 18 in his first season in the NHL. That's pretty impressive. I'd love to see that. And then Esa Lindell has not played a game with us yet, right? Yeah, he hasn't. But he is our depth defenseman, so there's that. How has Sasaki been in terms of throwing hits? 104 hits, blocks a lot of shots, and gives the puck away a lot. He's already had 2 fights, apparently. Interesting. So there's that. Goalie stats have been kind of getting a little bit worse since we last looked, but Pettersson's still pretty solid. 24, 17, and 6. 2 shutouts, a 9-12, and a 2.79. Well, Hunter Jones has been really good as our backup, but I don't really know how long he's going to be our backup goalie, because we do have Hornquist in the minors still to worry about, because maybe he becomes our NHL backup goalie next year. Or maybe we just run Jones in him instead and get rid of Pettersson, because we know that Pettersson isn't going to be a good playoff goalie. But a 9.15 and a 2.47 is pretty good. So that is that. Let's take a quick look at around the league for fun as well, just because I'm kind of curious on where some of our players rank. So Michkov is actually second in points, only behind Sebastian Aho right now, which is interesting. He is first in goals, so he's on pace to definitely win the Maurice Richard, which is great. Where was Agostino in points? Top 10, it looks like, just outside of the top 10. Interesting. Best defenseman so far for points is Salamonson, who was just a free agent, so that's kind of interesting. And the best goalie so far in terms of wins is Schustrom in Chicago. And shutouts, Schustrom. Save percentage by starter, Schustrom. Yeah, Schustrom's probably going to be your Vezina winner. So that is a little bit of a wrap-up on the league so far this season. Now we got to take a look and see what is out there on the trading block, just in case there's anything we want to bring in to help out our team. I'll show you guys our roster again, just in case you don't remember the lineup. So that's what our roster looks like currently. If you guys see any holes that you want me to try and fill to make this team better, let me know, because I can address any specific spot. So there's that. Let's actually take a quick look at the AHL. Any good growth so far? Koltsov's is 78/25. Kagorodov is getting really good goal scoring apparently down there in the AHL. Hopefully he can make it. Damon's been pretty good. He's almost NHL ready. McIntyre's been pretty good. So that second line's been really good. 104 penalty minutes though for McIntyre. So this guy might be a little bit of a goon. Bykov's a 78. Penner's a 78. Looks like we're getting some good growth down there. DeMaio's getting close to being NHL ready, so he might get into our lineup next season. He's already having a career year in the AHL. Ortmeyer, as usual, is doing good. Osgood's getting some growth, but I don't know if he'll reach that lowly potential. And in goalie-wise, Hornquist is up to an 81, and he's got a 920 down there. This guy literally deserves to be in the NHL, but I don't really know if I could get him in there just yet, because this guy was a former 7th-round pick. I believe he was one of the last picks in that draft as well. And he's had 3 years in the minors, and he had multiple years in the SHL before he came over. But he's been a phenomenal AHL goalie. 10 shutouts this season already. So, yeah, I'd really like to get him in if we can. But at the same time, I really don't know if we can this season. We might have to wait till next season unless we decide to get rid of Pedersen, which, I mean, we could always do that, but I don't know if it would be a smart move, really. So anyways, there's that. Let's take a quick look at the trading block, and then I will also show you guys, I think, maybe our contract situation again, just in case you guys want me to give some extensions out in the next episode. But yeah, Anaheim has pretty much nothing on the block. Or Jack Rathbone. That's not a bad depth defenseman, but for 2 years, it's like, eh. He'd be a better depth defenseman than Lindell, pretty much. But just, basically, there's a couple depth defensemen in Boston. Not really anything that we could use in Buffalo. Juracek in Calgary, 2.8 is a lot to pay, and he's dropping off due to morale, so they must have him scratched. Simon Holmstrom, Jack Quinn. We could always probably make our bottom six a little bit more offensive, but they're still not doing too bad, I would say. The only one player I would be kind of concerned about is Shishkinov on that second line, or try and get our second line maybe a little bit more offense, because we could always move Shishkinov down in the lineup. So maybe we want to try and upgrade that a little bit and give our third line and our second line and maybe our fourth line even a little bit more offense. But I don't really know if it's mandatory. Zadina apparently is getting a lot of... Is he scratched or something? He must be. So Zadina is still in Dallas. We decided to... we traded him to Dallas a few years ago, and that kind of screwed them over in terms of Michkov in the contract situation, and now they have a lot of players on the block. So yeah, Dallas is probably not going to make the playoffs again. Looks like Zadina's been riding the bench, and yeah, Dallas is a really ugly situation right now. White Cloud is still on the block. Same with that Geyser dude we just saw. Samsonov on 1 year left, but 7.5. We don't really need to trade for a goalie, I don't think. Barkov with 1 year left. That's kind of intriguing, but he doesn't fit anything. Sam Reinhart with 1 year left. Doesn't fit anything either. Sean Monahan doesn't fit anything. Damn, none of these Florida Panthers players really fit our team. Except for Heppo Niemi, but he doesn't really... He's not worth it, to be honest, I don't think. He'd be a good third-line center, but we already kind of have one. So, but yeah, if you guys see anything you want me to trade for to try and make our team even better, let me know. But if not, we might not make any trades and just see how this team simulates the rest of the year. Because this team's been pretty good. It's just more about finding consistencies in our lineup. And hopefully that we could actually play good defensively in the playoffs and our goaltenders don't shit the bed like they've been doing for the last 4 years or whatever it's been. So... What else we got here? Nick Schmaltz, Nolan Patrick. It's so annoying that they signed Nolan Patrick and immediately just throw him on the block because he would have been a really good first-line center to have. He puts up a lot of points as well. But unfortunately, just Philadelphia is just, yeah, they're just trying to trade him right away. Dumais, Walker is still on the block. This is not a bad depth option for our bottom six if we wanted to trade for a bottom six depth option. But at the same time, I don't really know if we have the use for him because we have a lot of snipers down there. Because do we want to find somebody more defensively minded for that bottom six or more offensive? I don't know. Nugent Hopkins still signed for 2 years, which is not great. Ryan Hartman on 1 year left is not bad, but he's 36. What about Tampa? Jack Hughes is on the block now. So we tried to sign Jack Hughes as well, but Tampa signed him, and it looks like they're not utilizing him well either. Why does the AI do this? They end up stealing the players you want, and then they end up putting them on the block and don't utilize them that well. Like, look at this, minus 37 in 63 games. Which might be the worst plus minus I've seen through that much amount of games. But he would have been a really good fit for our top line. But now he's signed for 7 years in Tampa Bay. And it's like, I don't want to trade for a 7-year contract unless I knew that I could actually have that amount of cap space for 7 years. Because or else he would end up getting traded away at some point. And it's just really annoying. It seems the AI doesn't utilize Jack Hughes that well. Because he had problems like that in Detroit, I believe, as well a couple of years ago. Or maybe that was New Jersey, actually, when he was starting out. But yeah, there's definitely trade options out there to help out our defense, help out our offense, that type of thing. A lot of these guys do have bad contracts, so I don't really know what we trade for. And final thing, let's take a look at our contracts up for renewal, just so we could see who we got to re-sign this offseason. So Jacob Chikrin's probably the biggest one. He's trying to get over $10 million. I really don't know if we're going to be able to give him that. And then we also have Sharon Govich, who's right now trying to get like $8 million, but I definitely want to try and get him back, I think. Connor Geeky's also a UFA. He wants like $5 million, which is really not that bad. But for a third liner, it's a little bit expensive. Quinton Byfield right now is relatively cheap, which I think if we did a 3-year deal at like 6.5 or something, that'd be okay. Dobson, maybe he leaves because of the fact we do have DeMaio in the AHL. We don't really know about LaRose. And then obviously all the RFAs we'd bring back and whatnot. So, but yeah, we definitely have some decisions in terms of the offseason, but who cares about the offseason? Because right now we're just trying to win ourselves a Stanley Cup. And yeah, right now Pettersson's trying to still get a lot of money. Like if you had 8 years, he wants almost $17 million, which is kind of crazy. But I would really like to get Hornquist into our lineup next season. So maybe we could just qualify Pettersson and hopefully some AI team decides to pick him up. Or we could trade away his rights. And then we could just run Jones and Hornquist instead, which wouldn't be too bad. And it would be relatively cheap options to do instead. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll have the trade deadline. We might make some changes depending on what you guys think. And we will simulate the rest of the season. And hopefully we continue the pace we're on. Because obviously we're in a really good spot right now in terms of where we are in the standings. It's just more about if this team's actually going to be good enough in the playoffs and whatnot. So then you can sing down below. And I'll see you guys next time.